Not all protests are equal. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, because, there's a shocking truth bomb that some people may discover, or I'm sure most have. Normies may not. But not all protests are equal, everyone. No, they're not. Not at all. So, let's have a look. I just wonder, is 1984 still on the reading list at school? Let me know in the comments, guys. We haven't gotten up to high school yet with our kids. We've gotten, we're still in primary school. Maybe I need to bring it in. Maybe I need to bring it in. But before we have a look at that, I want to draw your attention to, a sponsorship plug for our event tonight that we're having on our Twitch show. Political activism during the age of the Aussie bootlicker. I encourage you all to come join in, have a discussion, share your opinions and ideas for fostering political activism. Particularly, frankly, I was really a little depressed yesterday just seeing how many people were so happy to report and dob in Australians. How many people were encouraged to report their family to the police. That got to me, guys. It really did. And I'm just kind of, I guess a little bit, probably naively, shocked at how many Australians are just lapping it up. So, not all protests are created equally. Let's go back in time and have a look. Now, we had in May 2021, the school strike for climate. Thousands of young Australians call for urgent action on climate change. Remember this one. Now, you may not agree with everything people have to say, and young people, just because of their age, are the least experienced, and their brains are the least developed of everyone else. But they still have a right, and they still have their opinion to be heard. I'm quite frustrated when I was at school because we were used for political purposes without our consent. You were kind of forced to take part in protests and certain things. Thousands of students and supporters turn out to events in Australia's major cities. They urged the federal government to do more to ensure a renewable energy future. Some said because they were too young to vote, it was the only way to make their voices heard. So, there you go, getting out there praise lavished on them. You'll die of old age, I'll die of climate change. Oh, well, there you go. I mean, you may not agree with what they're saying, because honestly, I'm not a denialist. I know the climate is changing and humanity is having an impact, but I also have read the Copenhagen Consensus, and I understand that we have limited resources, and deploying them all now with our primitive solar panels and wind turbines, where the embodied energy won't be offset for a significant length of time, maybe even longer than the lifespan of some of the products. I'm a little cynical of it. To me, it just looks at limiting our capacity to compete on the global stage for absolutely no benefit. And I'll bring up a quote here just to ram that home. This is from Dr. Alan Finkel, the AO, our chief scientist. If the world were to reduce carbon emissions by 1.3%, what impact would it make on climate change? And his response was virtually nothing, and that we should simply do it to virtue signal, essentially. So, here was a protest. Everyone was supporting of it just in May of this year, everyone. And there'll be some places here where they have masks, some where they don't, some where people choose to wear them, and some where they don't, because, it's outdoors. Okay? There you go. So, remember this one, guys. Thousands of people. And let's go further back in time once again to January of this year. We had Invasion Day rallies. See thousands take to Melbourne streets. And, of course, 2 men were detained by police. Now, you're always going to have some violence at these protests. You always will. It's a charged event. There's so many people. There's a big crowd. And some people are probably just going to these things, all of them, for a bit of a biff. Guaranteed there would be some people that would be doing that, guys. So, a man draped in an Australian flag was handcuffed near the march's end at Flinders Station. Speakers of the event called for more recognition of Indigenous history and the end to black deaths in custody. There were more subdued Australia Day celebrations this year due to the pandemic. So there you go. We had big protests, people everywhere, people getting arrested. Of course, they found a Proud Boys guy there. There you go. Draped in Aboriginal flags, owned by a private corporation, isn't it? Or private artist. There you go. They want to raise awareness. They want to get publicity, and they're succeeding in that. They have the right to do it. You may not agree with everything. You may find it a little, insulting that it's considered an invasion, but there are a lot of issues with Indigenous culture throughout Australia, and a lot of these remote communities, they're completely screwed over, guys. They really are. And, you know, they're throwing so much money at them and resources and you know, government socialism at them, and none of it's working. I wonder why. But still, you know, they're there. They had a protest. The media responded. Now, let's go even further back in time, everyone, to June 2020. The BLM rallies held across Australia to protest against mistreatment and deaths of Indigenous people. And there you go, the same type of thing, kind of overlapping significantly with Invasion Day. But, you know, thousands of people turned out at rallies across Australia. Protesters were supporting Indigenous people and the BLM movement, which began after police killings in the US. The protests in capital cities and regional centres were largely peaceful. So you're always going to have some violence or something like this, guys. And the media will latch onto it and magnify it for political purposes. That's what people are going to do, and that's on all sides of the political spectrum. Don't expect that to not happen. That's just part of it. But the problem is that may be all some people see. We saw the horse guy. You know how he was shoving that horse away, and when you saw the footage, it didn't quite look. He didn't run up and punch it, did it? The horse was going to him. So there you go. To me, a horse they're trained to intimidate crowds and break them up. It's like a cavalry charge or you know, knights charging at a crowd of peasants. This is just our version of it, everyone. So, Greens MP, surprising. We can see here, look at that. Look at all the numbers there. There you go. Look at all the numbers there. There you go. Look at all the numbers there. So, you know, even violence, pepper spraying the police, they usually come in at the end, apparently, when the crowd is breaking up. Melbourne organisers fined for rally breaching coronavirus restrictions. There you go. They ignored the restrictions back then in those protests. But how did the media respond to it? I'm putting my earphones on because we're going to watch a little clip that's doing the rounds. And here we go. Doing the rounds. Let's try and get this happening. Well-organised machine here on the HeiseSays YouTube channel, everyone.
While busy beaches and packed parks might seem like a COVID risk, there hasn't been a single case of outdoor transmission since the pandemic began.
Okay, remember that. I know there are going to be people saying, oh, but Florian, it's different this time. We've got the Delta. We've got that. But the hospitalisation rates are different too, everyone. This is the thing with this whole bloody pandemic. It's all just cases. You need to look at the hospitalisation rates. Wasn't the whole point about these lockdowns that would seriously destroy and damage our economy? And I'm going to bring up this chart here, everyone, because what the government is doing is not free. Okay, don't kid yourself. It's not free. There's a cost associated with it. We're now over nearly 1.3 trillion in debt, and that's work that they'll make people do. Now, my understanding was this was to flatten the curve to limit the impact on our healthcare system. Here in Queensland, what do we have? One person in ICU. We need to make with 400 beds, over 400 beds. That should be the metric they use to measure the impact that they have on people's lives. Protect those that most vulnerable and most risk of hospitalization. Have a media campaign to push people to improve their health, and give them options and access to treatments and vaccines if people choose to do that. Maybe the government shouldn't put all the bag in one or two. Here's the thing. What if you want something based on all the technology, on or a vaccine coming from Russia or China? How can you get it here in Australia? Why can't we shop around? Why can't individuals choose to pay extra for what they want? Just an idea, but no, we can't have that. It's funny that. Anyway, let's jump back to this.
But when you look at the science, there has not been one case in New South Wales, even Australia, where someone has caught the virus outdoors. So fresh
there you go.
Air disperses and dilutes virus particles, making it very difficult to transmit with any strength, and the liquid drop.
Now, the argument is that the viral load of the Delta is significantly higher. That's why there are some risks associated with it outdoors. That's the argument that people are putting forward.
Droplets that carry COVID evaporate in the outdoors.
That's why, regardless of the fears, there was no transmission from Black Lives Matter protests in Australia. No transmission from Black Lives Matter protests in Australia.
Yeah, well, there you go.
A few moments later.
Thousands of lockdown protesters refusing to wear masks have been condemned this afternoon.
And we've seen, you know, there were people not wearing masks as well at the BLM protest, at the climate protest.
It will become a Delta super spreader event. This Premier calling the...
See, it's all about fear, everyone. The media is pushing fear. Fear gets the clicks, fear gets the views. Now, our political and, well, priestly media class, shall we say, aren't above instilling fear in the population to nudge them in the right direction. One could argue they do that with intention for the greater good. They infantize us so much, would anyone be surprised? I mean, you're not even expected to save your own bloody retirement, are you?
Protesters' behaviour utterly disgusting.
That's the word that really pisses me off the most out of all of this. The disgust. If you have a look at some of Jordan Peterson's lectures about disgust sensitivity and how people are... it's the pathway to dehumanizing others. That's dangerous, particularly when we have this rampant celebration of people reporting others, dobbing in others. And I'm looking at the bloody Reddit thing, and there's people there calling for violence, everyone, against, you know, protesters. That's not what you want. You don't want that in a multicultural society, everyone. Not at all. Not calls for violence. That's the problem, because then it just degrades into a tribalism.
Strike force seasoned, which will see 22 detectives work from now until whenever it concludes, identifying as many people as possible who attended today's incident and have them charged.
There you go. What do you think?
Range of penalties, it may well be more significant than a $1,000 fine.
There is no doubt their voices were heard, but underlying the noise and anger, an irony that this potential super spreader on Freedom Day would only serve to increase their term of imprisonment.
Their term of imprisonment. There you go. Creating divide, everyone. People who are maybe fed up. Their businesses are in the clinker. Here's the thing. The media is only going to focus on the ones right at the front, on the actual march. We went to the protest here, or the rally here in Brisbane. I didn't take the kids up marching up the street. Crazy? I'm not going to do that, not expose them to that potential. But where do you think the media is? Not all the people happily watching the speeches, talking, families congregating, kids playing. No, not that. Not, you know, it's the ones that are real riled up, probably the younger guys. So, interesting. Seems to be not all protests are created equally. But, you know, people support the right to protest. I'm sure they do. But, now I did a poll. I did two polls. Let's have a look here. So, the first one I asked, do you support the right for people to protest? And 95% said yes. I just did this an hour ago, as I'm getting ready this morning to record. Now, yep. 5% said no. And let's have a look at some of the comments here, because... well, what I'm seeing here is the people that say yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. It's a yes, no question. You either support it or you don't. You know, you think I'm a fan of the young kids skipping school to protest for climate strikes? Strike for climate? I think they're being manipulated by their teachers, because it happened to me when I was at school, everyone. It happened to me at university. Well, no, it didn't happen to me. At university, we were really greenwashed. I'm an architect, guys. The greenwashing there is insane. And for what, that's when I started becoming quite skeptical of everything that was being fed by me, and found some other information and sources that are critical of a lot of what they're putting out. Look at the Copenhagen Consensus with limited resources, what we can do. And you've got to remember, every dollar that government spends or subsidizes something, that's work. That's a dollar. That's money from little Susie's dance lessons, or from someone struggling to save a deposit to get a house in this stupidly inflated market. So, I want to see if the bottom-feeding politicians can take $600 home a week. It's a God-given right to peacefully protest. Peacefully not means not hurting anybody or anything, stopping traffic hurts people and people's right to travel freely. I understand, yeah. I mean, they stopped traffic. Yes, but put the health and safety of others at risk, like the events on the weekend did. So if the government, they could just... That's the danger, guys. If you elevate health and safety over the... when will it become acceptable to put other ones at risk? Or to take risks for yourself? If you're afraid of a potential super spreader event because of these protests, you can just self-isolate at home for a few weeks to limit your exposure to other people. And then you won't be at risk. Oh, but that's inconvenient. Yeah, well, people have been doing this for years now, everyone. People's businesses are getting destroyed. Their livelihoods are getting destroyed. This isn't just a bunch of nutters, guys. The government and media are trying to use health and safety as an excuse. See, this is, in many ways, the whole health and safety bullshit here in Australia. This is how we've become a bloody nanny state. And it's a little insidious path and way of collectivism and authoritarianism to sneak in. I remember talking to a lawyer who was working for the unions, and she was just talking all about how good they are because they're all worried about health and safety and all of this stuff. And I thought it was quite funny because it's a known mechanism. I was going to say yes, but of course, peaceful until provoked. So, I mean, there's the question, guys. There's the thing. Is it yes, but? And, do we really support it? We don't have freedom of speech here in Australia. There's so many people that are happy to, dob in each other's. And here's another poll we looked at. I put up yesterday. Have you heard anything positive about any of the freedom rallies in the media? 6% said yes, 94% said no. And I'm assuming the 6% that said yes were watching Avi Yamini's channel. That's what I think they were. 7 News, it was the same here, yeah. So, what's the solution to all of this, everyone? Well, I'd encourage you, at the very least, come along to our Twitch show and have a talk about ideas and suggestions. I'm confident that this will activate people politically. There's some people who aren't even thinking about politics, and for the first time, they're actually starting to give a shit and are stepping up, which is encouraging to see. If you look at the crowds there at these protests, you get the same ones at everyone, You get the hardcore Marxists with their little red propaganda, and you get the whole crowd, but you get normal people too that are actually frustrated and are feeling that their views and their concerns are not being heard. Oh, and this, I'll show you another clip. I don't have it here. We'll do it in another video with Dan Andrews, guys, where he was shocked that they're protesting him. So, my suggestion is political activism, guys. People need to step up and get involved. People need to vote. You've got Campbell Newman leaving the Liberal Party, going to the Liberal Democrats. So I suspect this may be an opportunity for the LDP to get a bit more of exposure and people realizing what it actually means when the politicians vote for all these biosecurity powers and these restrictions. Why are they allowed? Why are they allowed to restrict our lives so much? It should be tied to hard numbers. It should be tied to ICU numbers if it's a bio situation. Anyway, come along, have a chat. Let's talk about some ideas and suggestions. Thank you all for watching, everyone. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. Sign up for SelfWealth or Stake. Use our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. Buy a merch from HeiseSays. Use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint or support us via PayPal. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.